This is the Miami Dolphins instant reaction for Game 9 of the 2022 NFL season against the Chicago Bears. The Dolphins would come away with a thrilling 35-32 victory over the Chicago Bears. The Dolphins would be led by Tua Tagovailoa, who would go 21 out of 30 for 302 yards passing. He would throw for 3 touchdown passes, finishing the day with an overall QBR of 79.7 and an overall passer rating of 135.7. It's worth to note that each of those passes would average 10.1 yards per pass. Justin Fields would lead the way passing for the Bears, and he would go 17 out of 28, throwing for 123 yards, averaging only 4.4 yards per pass, but he would get 3 total touchdown passes. Fields would not throw any interceptions. He would get sacked twice, losing only 7 yards, finishing the day with an overall QBR of 95.6 and passer rating of 106.7. In the ground game for this game, the Dolphins would be led by Jeff Wilson, who would get a total of 9 carries for 51 yards, averaging 5.7 yards per carry, with a long of 28 yards. Raheem Mostert would come in second, as he would gain 26 yards on 9 carries on 2.9 average yards per carry, scoring a touchdown and going along of the day for 14 yards. The running game is where Justin Fields really did his damage in this game. He would get 15 total carries, most of which improvised, and he would gain 178 yards rushing, finishing the day with an 11.9, a crazy 11.9 yards per carry average, scoring a touchdown, which was an incredible 61-yard scamper for the quarterback, Justin Fields. A close second, not really, would be David Montgomery, as he would have 14 carries, but he would only get 36 yards rushing, finishing the day with a 2.6 yards per carry average, going for a long of the day for a whopping 8 yards. On the receiving side of things, Tyreek Hill would lead the way for the Dolphins, as he would get 7 receptions on 8 total targets, gaining 143 yards, averaging 20.4 yards per pass, scoring a touchdown, and going along of the day for 39 yards. And he would be followed by Jalen Waddle, who also had one of the touchdown passes. He would get 5 total receptions out of 7 targets, go for 85 yards, finishing the day with a 17 yards per catch average. Along of the day would be 26 yards for Jalen Waddle, 21 yards, and scoring that touchdown pass, which was a 10-yard touchdown pass from Tua to Jeff Wilson. The Dolphins would not have any turnovers, but they would have a fumble, which was recovered by Tua himself. But defensively, or should I say special teams-wise, we had a special teams touchdown by the Miami Dolphins' Andrew Van Ginkel, who would not gain any tackles in the game defensively, but on the special teams, which was a block punt, he would essentially take that to the house, scoring a touchdown, which was a crucial touchdown at that. Defensively, the Dolphins would be led by Elandon Roberts, who would total 10 tackles, 5 of those tackles going solo, followed by Kader Kohou, who would have 8 solo tackles. On the Chicago Bears defensive side, Kyler Gordon had 8 total tackles, 7 of them going solo, followed by Jack Sanborn, who would have 7 total tackles, all of them solo. And then later on, the only one, as the Bears would only have 1 tackle for loss, which was by Nicholas Morrow. He would finish the day with 4 total tackles, 3 of them solo. As we mentioned, special teams-wise, the Dolphins did come away with a touchdown, but the kicking game continues to be a struggle for this Dolphins group, as Jason Sanders would miss a chip shot 29-yard field goal, and he would finish the day with going 0 for 1, which it was his only attempt, but he would finish the day with 5 total extra points. Thomas Morstead would only have to come into the game once to punt, and he would punt it for 51 yards in this game. For the Chicago Bears, we had Cairo Santos, who went 1 for 1, which was a 32-yard field goal that opened the scoring of this game, and he would go 3 for 3 from extra point land. On the punting side of things, Trenton Gill would only have 2 punts, averaging 41.5 yards, the long of which was 46 yards. Let's talk about how this game went in terms of scoring and overall how it was shaping up as the game started. As I mentioned, the Bears would open scoring on finishing an 8-play, 61-yard drive that would take 3 minutes and 57 seconds and would culminate in the 32-yard field goal by Cairo Santos, which would take the lead, one of the only leads that the Bears would have in this game. On the ensuing drive, the first drive, offensive drive for the Miami Dolphins, the Phins would go 6 plays, 75 yards, taking a total of 3 minutes and 30 seconds. This drive would culminate on a 1-yard touchdown rush by Raheem Mostert. Some of the key plays of this drive would be the following. We had on a 2nd and 8 play at the Miami 27 at minute 10:25 of the first quarter, Tua would pass deep to the middle to Jalen Waddle, which would take the ball to the Miami 44-yard line. That would be a 17-yard gain total. Later on, Tua would find Trent Sherfield on a 3rd and 5 play at their own 49-yard line. At minute 8:28 of the first quarter, Tua would find Trent Sherfield, who would then get to the Chicago 33-yard line, totaling 18 yards on the play. At that point, there would be a defensive pass interference called as Tua would pass it deep to Tyreek Hill, and there would be a defensive pass interference on the defender by the Bears, Vilder, and that would take the ball to the 1-yard line of the Bears, which was punched in by Raheem Mostert for a 1-yard touchdown rush, and that would give Miami their first lead of the day, 7-3 in the first quarter. Ensuing play by the Chicago Bears, this would be a 15-play, 75-yard drive that would last a whopping 7 minutes and 41 seconds, which would culminate in a 18-yard touchdown pass to Cole Kmet by Justin Fields. Some of the key plays in this drive was there wasn't a lot of large gains. A lot of it was Fields scrambling to the right, scrambling to the left, avoiding pressure, getting out of stacks, and he would just will his way to the Miami red zone, and I would culminate in that touchdown pass to Cole Kmet. This would be the only lead for the Chicago Bears of the day, as they would take the lead 10-7. It would be the second lead, I beg your pardon, as the Bears did open the scoring in this game. The ensuing drive for the Dolphins would be a 7-play, 75-yard drive that would last 4 minutes and 13 seconds, which would culminate in a 3-yard touchdown pass from Tua to Tyreek Hill with minute 10:39 in the second quarter. Some of the key plays in this drive, we would see that Tua would find Tyreek Hill for 25 yards. This was a 1st and 15 play at the Miami 20-yard line, and that play would bring Miami to their own 45-yard line. Later on in that drive, Tua on a 2nd and 9 play at minute 13:10 of the second quarter, Tua would find Jalen Waddle, who would take the ball 26 yards to the Chicago 28-yard line. That would continue to set up the Dolphins' chances at gaining taking the lead once again. After that touchdown pass by Tua to Tyreek would be one of the key moments in this game. The ensuing drive by the Chicago Bears would take 4 plays and only go 15 yards, taking 2 minutes and 14 seconds off the clock. But it would essentially be a 3 and out, as on the 4th and 5th play from the Chicago Bear 40-yard line, the punt was blocked. Jalen Phillips would get in front of that punt. Andrew Van Ginkel would recover it and take it 25 yards for the touchdown, giving Miami a 21-10 lead. And that was important because the ensuing drive for the Bears would be a 12-play, 75-yard drive that would take a total of 6 minutes and 32 seconds. This drive would culminate on a Justin Fields pass that was to Darnell Mooney, which was for 16 yards. And some of the key plays in this drive is, once again, more of the same. We saw a 17-yard rush by Justin Fields on a 2nd and 8 at the Chicago 27 with 7:55 left in the second quarter. And we would see a lot of that. We would see a 7-yard rush. We would see let's see here. We would see another 2 yards. So this game was being dominated at this point by Justin Fields and his rushing ability. At that point, the Dolphins' lead was cut down to 21-17, and the ensuing drive for the Phins, as the first half was finishing, this drive was an 8-play, 64-yard drive that would last 1 minute and 46 seconds, but it would culminate on a 29-yard missed field goal by Jason Sanders, which would go wide left. Jason Sanders continues to struggle in these moments that are so crucial, as every point can come down to the wire. After that, that would essentially be the end of the first half, as Justin Fields would kneel. Try to say that fast 3 times. Justin Fields would kneel and take the game into the intermission. At the start of the second half, the Dolphins would start off with possession, and they would go 4 plays for 75 yards, taking a total of 2 minutes and 13 seconds, scoring a touchdown, which was culminated by Jalen Waddle, which was an 18-yard touchdown pass from Tua Tagovailoa. Some of the key moments in this drive was on the first play of that drive, Tua would find Tyreek Hill, who would go 22 yards that would continually set up another play, which was Jeff Wilson running right for 28 yards, taking the ball to the Chicago 25-yard line. And then Jeff Wilson would run for another 7 yards, which would take the ball to the Chicago 18. And the ensuing play after that would lead to the 18-yard touchdown pass to Jalen Waddle. On the next drive for the Chicago Bears, this would be a 3-play, 66-yard drive, which would take only 1 minute and 27 seconds. But the majority of this drive was essentially all Justin Fields, as Justin Fields would get a 61-yard touchdown rush as he was avoiding people left, avoiding people right, and he found a way. He turned on the Jets, and he made an incredible, one of the plays of the year, in my opinion. And he would cut down the lead to 23-28, and would also attempt a 2-point conversion, which succeeded. And that would cut down Miami's lead to 3, as the Dolphins would, on their next ensuing drive, start as they were leading 28-25, looking to try to put this team away, hoping to do so. The ensuing drive for the Dolphins would be an 11-play, 75-yard drive that would take a total of 5 minutes and 18 seconds. And this drive would culminate in a 10-yard touchdown pass to Jeff Wilson from Tua Tagovailoa. Some of the key plays in this drive would be the following. We would see a short pass to Jalen Waddle on a 3rd and 2 on the Miami 33-yard line to Jalen Waddle, who would gain 12 total yards. We would see later on a 2nd and 9 play with 9:11 left in the third quarter, Tua would find Tyreek Hill down the middle, who would go for 20 yards. And then later on, we would see on a 3rd and 7 play, these third downs coming up huge for the Dolphins here, Tua would find Tyreek Hill, who would gain 18 yards from the Chicago 31 to the Chicago 13 on a 3rd and 7 play. At that point, the Dolphins would go a few more yards, 3 more yards to be exact, until the pass, the 10-yard touchdown pass to Jeff Wilson would come through. And that would give Miami a 35-25 lead. And essentially, that would be it for the offense for Miami with 6 minutes and 2 seconds left in the third quarter. Ensuing possession for the Bears would only go 3 plays, 3 and out, losing 8 yards, as there was a penalty on a 2nd and 8 play from the Chicago 27-yard line, which would give them a 10-yard loss on that penalty. At that point, Justin Fields, having to throw the ball, did not find any type of rhythm or any type of help or support, and it would essentially cause the Bears to punt it away. The ensuing possession for the Dolphins, and this is starting with 4 minutes and 40 seconds of the third quarter, Tua has a chance to put these Bears away. Put these Bears to sleep, might I say. And this drive only was for 5 plays and 20 yards, taking a total of 2 minutes and 38 seconds, but would end on what was a potentially, or should I say, extremely questionable 4th and 6 call from the Chicago 35-yard line, as Tua would look for Mike Gesicki, but the pass would go incomplete, which should have, in my opinion, have been intercepted. At that point, after that 4th and 6, the momentum would start to shift again, as now the Bears would have a 10-play, 65-yard drive that would last 5 minutes and 24 seconds, coming out of the third quarter and into the fourth quarter, of which would culminate with a 4-yard touchdown pass from Justin Fields to Cole Kmet. Some of the key plays of this drive would be a 4th down conversion and a 3rd down conversion for the Chicago Bears that allowed them to keep this drive going and cut down the lead. On a 4th and 1, with literally was the first play of the fourth quarter, Justin Fields would sneak it up the middle for 2 yards and would convert the 4th down. The ensuing few plays, we had a 3rd and 1 right after a Darnell Mooney pass that went for 9 yards. And Justin Fields, don't you know, would go right, and he would gain 14 yards on that scamper, which would take the ball to the Miami 31-yard line. At that point, it was a couple of passes, one to Cole Kmet that would go for 10 yards, another 17-yard rush by Justin Fields that would take the ball to the Miami 4-yard line, and that would culminate with, once again, another pass to Cole Kmet that would finalize this drive with a 4-yard touchdown pass that would cut the lead 35-32. Ensuing drive for the Miami Dolphins would go 7 plays for 68 yards, taking 3 minutes and 48 seconds off the clock. And with Miami's inability or just lack of trust in their kicking game, they decide to go for it on a 4th and 1 at the Chicago 14-yard line. And truth be told, at this point, the Dolphins are trying to put the Bears away. Tua would pass it, and it would go short to Durham Smythe, who, in my opinion, what ends up happening is the ball was thrown slightly behind him, given that he was slightly behind the down marker, or the first down marker, which is what led to him, in my opinion, not being able to make the play. Although one would say that if it was somebody else, they might have made the play happen. Nonetheless, on the next play, with all the momentum swinging into the Chicago Bears zone, the Bears would only go 9 plays and 24 yards, taking 4 minutes and 46 seconds off the clock, but it would end in a punt, as this was one of these important drives that would be cut short by a sack of Justin Fields by Melvin Ingram, which was a 1st and 10 at the Chicago 42-yard line with 4 minutes and 36 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Ensuing couple of plays would be short passes, long passes that would all go incomplete, and Chicago, not trying to go for it on a 4th and 13, would decide to punt it and would get that punt to the Miami 24-yard line. The Dolphins, once again, with with just over 3 minutes left, had the opportunity to get a couple first downs and seal the game, but were not able to, as 3 plays they would lose a yard and only taking 26 yards off the clock. This drive would end after a 3rd and 11 play where Tua was looking deep to Jalen Waddle, but the pass would go incomplete. At that point, this is where Thomas Morstead comes in, and he punts the ball 51 yards. We saw that the previous punt by the Bears was only 37, and this one, Morstead comes out and just booms it for 51 yards. And he would essentially flip the field and send the ball to the Chicago 26-yard line. And that's where the Bears would have to start to try and come back and tie or take the lead. The Bears would come in with 2 minutes and 38 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Justin Fields would start it off with a pass short left to Darnell Mooney, which would go for 2 yards. He would then scramble left for 12 yards, taking the ball to the 42-yard line of the Chicago Bears, which would take us to the 2-minute warning. At that point, there would be 4 more plays before the game would essentially be sealed by the Dolphins. Khalil Herbert would go left for 2 yards. Justin Fields would then get sacked on the ensuing play by Duke Riley. And mind you, it was only a 2-yard loss. Given the nature of Justin Fields, I'm not surprised, as Justin Fields kept on finding ways to escape and escape and escape again. After that, it was a 3rd and 10 from the Chicago 42. Justin Fields' pass would go incomplete to newcomer Chase Claypool, who came from the Pittsburgh Steelers, who played against the Dolphins a few weeks prior to this. And then on a 4th and 10 play from the Chicago 42, Justin Fields would look to try to get to Equanimeous St. Brown, and that pass would go incomplete, essentially turning the ball over to the Dolphins, and the Dolphins would have to kneel the ball 3 total times, and in the result of this was sealing the deal for the Phins, who are now 6-3 as they look towards next week as they face the Cleveland Browns, looking to go 7-3 after next week. As we've mentioned before, the Dolphins have a very good opportunity to set themselves up for playoff contention and playoff success, as if they were to win the next 2 games, which in my opinion should be winnable, easily winnable at that, games against both the Browns and the Texans at home, it sets us up for what would be, and what I've mentioned multiple times on this podcast, a December from hell, in which the Phins would be playing 3 straight home games against the 49ers, the Chargers, the Bills, followed by a home game on Christmas Day versus the Packers, and would culminate on a road game against the Patriots, finishing the season at home versus the Jets. The Dolphins, if they were to win any of those 5 games, 6 if you're including the Jets, should put themselves in a position to make the playoffs. I think if they can go 3 out of those 6, they can even potentially get a home game. But if they just were to get one of those, potentially 2, which I would prefer them get at least 3, but if they were to only get 1, there's still opportunities for them to make the playoffs. So we'll see what happens as the Miami Dolphins look to make the playoffs once again for the first time since the 2016 season. And I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to it. I really hope that we can finally see some playoff success for these Dolphins, as the last time that they had a playoff victory, I was all of 7 years old, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hope that this is the year where the Dolphins change that, and let's hope that we don't have another experience of the many we've had in the last 20-something years where the Dolphins find ways to lose games and find ways to put themselves in the worst possible situations. This has been the Miami Dolphins' instant reaction of the 2022 NFL season of Week 9 against the Chicago Bears. I'm your host, John Acosta, and I look forward to speaking to you next week and recap the Miami Dolphins game versus the Cleveland Browns. Thank you so much for listening. Follow us on all of our platforms. You can find us at The Groove and Grit Show, both on Twitter and on Instagram, as we look forward to the next few games coming up as the Dolphins look to finish the year strong and position themselves for playoff success. Thanks again for listening. See you soon.